Hey, and welcome to today's live stream. We are going to be talking about miracles again. I told you a few days ago that there are three core sichos or discourses from the Lubavitcher Rebbe that I basically live with, that my students live with, that we are doing everything we can to internalize, because everything that is delivered through the Torah, especially the deeper levels of mystical Torah, Kabbalah, and especially Hasidus, are a direct transmission from a higher plane to us. But the thing is, with any transmission, we have to be primed to receive it. Like if the sun is shining and you're lying in a dark room, you're not going to get the benefit of the sunshine. Doesn't mean it's not shining, doesn't mean it's not there. It's just that we need to be vessels for the light that's coming in. And that's especially true when it comes to the light of the Torah, and the mystical Torah, those deeper levels. Also, we are making vessels of ourselves to bring that new light into our own lives, to follow those instructions that are transmitted to us together with the potential that's transmitted. And then through doing that, we directly and indirectly impact the world. So number three, secret number three, we talked about secret number one, which was to switch our relationship with God from one of Memalikol Almin, the light of the Creator that's hidden in the world, laws of nature, to Sovev Kol Almin, the light of the Creator that is beyond, that transcends the world and the laws of nature, that is much more direct and much more infinite. And we talked about how the challenges of our times were predicted by the prophets of long ago, the biblical prophets, Torah prophets, and how this time, according to the Rebbe, when darkness and evil is so increased from so many sides that feels like there's no way out, it's designed on purpose as part of the redemption to help us make the switch between those two paradigms. That was number one. Number two, we talked about how the power, the soul superpower of bitachon, of trust, which is a relaxed, integrated, emotional serenity, because we feel ourselves held and loved and protected and blessed by God, creates such a direct intimacy with God, with Source, with all there is, the all-powerful, the omnipotent, that it cuts through. It's almost like a wormhole that cuts through all the laws of cause and effect, the laws of deserve and not deserve, so that we can go directly to the source without having to go through more turmoil and struggle. In many cases, it's a job on its own to develop that bitachon, that intimacy, but it's the purpose for creation that we do that. And therefore, when we cut through the system and go directly to that level of intimacy, yes, it takes work. And yes, that work is rewarded because it takes us right beyond, again, the laws of nature into a direct relationship with the Creator. So instead of God being up here and the world being down here and we being in the world looking up and begging for help, of course, it's really important to pray, but we can start to consider ourselves that we are next to the Creator. We are there and the world is here, and that intimacy cuts right through and brings new things into the world, into our world. Okay, so now up to number three. Number three, in 1989, on the Hebrew date of Gimel Nisan, the 3rd of Nisan, the Rebbe said something quite amazing. He delivered a discourse, and it was about the month of Nisan. I'm not going to give over the whole thing here, but basically he said that every year, at the beginning of that month, that's the month of Passover, Nisan is the month of miracles. The word nes, which is the root of the name of the month, means miracle. Nisan is a month of miracles upon miracles, miracles within miracles. And the Rebbe explained that in that month, at the beginning of the month, and also certainly throughout the month, but at the beginning of the month, an entirely new potential for miracles and wonders comes into the world and into our lives straight from the source. Again, same theme, straight to the source, straight to the source, straight to the source. And that's one of the themes of all of these three discourses that I'm sharing here, these three secrets, these three keys to miracles in the time of redemption, in the chaos of redemption. So going straight to source is one, and another is that we are vessels to receive that light. So in accordance with how we position ourselves, in accordance with how aligned we can be in accordance to with our beliefs, with our practices, with what we connect to, with the communities that we connect to, the learnings that we connect to, and so forth. The way with the consciousness in our minds, the feelings in our hearts, the actions we take, that's called alignment. So in accordance with all of that, we are able to channel this new miraculous energy through ourselves, through our lives. We don't have to skip ourselves. We get to have miracles in our lives, and then again to change the world. So that's basically the underlying paradigm of all three of these things. So in this particular discourse, Gimel Nisan, Parshas Tazria, 1989, the Rebbe talked about that concept, and that in that year, 1989, he said, we have gone through over 3,300 years of this new influx every year, higher and higher, greater and greater. So the world is created with a certain potential for humans, not that we are ever actually meeting our full potential, but it's created with certain limits and certain, possibilities. And that's like the playing field or the game board. But every year at the beginning of Nisan, an entirely new power comes to us, and hopefully through us, to change, to upgrade the laws of nature. I like to call it changing the nature of nature. So that's been happening for over 3,300 years. And even at the time when the Rebbe said this in 1989, it was still over 3,000 years. The Rebbe said by this point, with this continuous yearly massive influx of new miraculous potential straight from the source, now it is incumbent upon all of us, based on the principle that you need to serve God and do your mission with everything you've got. So now we've got miraculous power. So what are we going to do with it? So he said it's incumbent upon us to start to become miracle makers, literally to do miracles. And he specifically said that we have to do miracles by our teva, by our nature, meaning that we're taking from this miraculous potential from above and pulling it down into our own beings and taking it on the road. So basically you could say, and I'm paraphrasing here, that part of our job, according to what the Rebbe is saying, is to bring the powers that were once reserved for the higher realms, let's call it heaven, let's call it angelic beings, whatever, that were once reserved for the higher realms. We're meant to pull it down into the lower realms through using it ourselves, through activating it in ourselves and using it. Because if I tell you to go make miracles, what are you going to do next? So it's a work in progress. It's an exploration. It's a practice. There are many, many, many tools and techniques that I have learned, that I've developed, that I've shared with students, that I continue to share. And all of these are a work in progress, because where's the edge? How far do we take it? And this is the next thing that the Rebbe said. So we have to do miracles by our teva, by our nature, even though it says in the Torah, there's an instruction in the Torah that says, Ein som en alanes, you're not allowed to depend on miracles. You're supposed to work within the laws of nature. But the Rebbe said that because the nature of nature has changed to such a degree that now it's time for us to do miracles by our nature. So we have to actually depend on miracles. We have to lean on that miraculous power with everything we've got. And then the Rebbe explained something really interesting. That, and again, I have to paraphrase. This is, many, many hours of deep delving if we're going to learn it inside. Although I do intend to teach it in the school probably starting next week. Anyway, so the Rebbe explained that, and I have to say I'm paraphrasing, but as I explained, we are receivers, we are the vessels to receive that light, that potential. And so to the degree that we're aligned with it and ready to receive and using it, that's the degree to which it can flow into us and then through us into the world. So the Rebbe explained that we are meant to go beyond it. He explained the concept that the Torah elucidates, that a person who, and this is the phrase, a person who studies his text 100 times, 101 times is called a servant of Hashem, someone who is working and transforming, literally serving God. Someone who only learns it 100 times, reviews it 100 times, is not. So, couple questions. First of all, how can you diminish reviewing a text 100 times? Like, that doesn't mean anything. And second of all, what's the big difference between 100 and 101? So the Rebbe explains that when you operate in accordance with your nature and your habits, and in those days, the habit was to review a text 100 times. So you're doing the right thing. You're good. You're golden even, but you're not going beyond your nature. you're fulfilling your potential, you're living your nature, and it can be habitual and it can be routine. And basically, it's inside the box. When you live inside the box, God responds inside the box. It's as simple as that. So when a person goes beyond his nature, 1%, and that's literally the difference between 100 and 101, 1% beyond his nature, one quantum tiptoe beyond his nature. He's already in the realm of the miraculous. He's already out of his nature and pulling on new potential that didn't come down yet. I like to call it stepping into the quantum realm, stepping into the ayin. You're stepping into the unknown on behalf of some very worthy goal. In this case, to make a difference in the world, to serve God, to do your purpose, to live your soul's desire. So anytime, and here's basically the bottom line, anytime any one of us, based on these principles, decides to pull out, to pull from a deeper potential, to activate and to activate a new level of divine power and personal power, to move beyond our habits and our identity. What do I believe about myself? What do I know I'm capable of? What do I know I'm not capable of? What do I believe is possible in this world? What do I not believe is possible or know isn't possible? When we move 1 inch beyond that, we're in the quantum realm. We have leapt out of the box, out of the snow globe into the higher level. Again, back to secret number 1, key number 1. We're now in Soviet Amin. We're not in the laws of our nature. And therefore, God is not in the laws of his nature. And he will reciprocate our efforts and bless our attempts to do miracles. How do you do miracles? Again, it's a discussion way out of the context of this live stream in our time. But prayer, you can have miraculously effective prayer. Energy healing can be miraculously affected. You can send good thoughts, visualize what you desire. That can be miraculously effective. And here's the deal, though, about miracles. And here the Rebbe quoted the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement in the mid-1700s, who said that what defines a miracle? When something breaks through the laws of nature for the first time. That's a miracle. So what happens when you can replicate it? What happens when you broke through the laws of nature once and now you're doing it again? So Baal Shem Tov says that's not any longer a miracle. Maybe it's like, a leap. Maybe it's hard work. Maybe you're still pushing yourself or pulling yourself, working with yourself. But once something happened, it moved from the realm of miracles, the impossible, the left to God alone, into the realm of possible. Humans can do it, even if most humans can't yet do it, and even if you just first started to discover it. So here's the deal. In order to be on this path of miracles, which again, this is what the Rebbe said we must do now to bring redemption. These are the things that I'm presenting here in this 1, 2, 3 part series, mini-series. These are the keys to a miraculous transformation from chaos to redemption, from chaos and disorder to a miraculous higher divine order. So the way of being that is being not only instructed and suggested to us, but the power for it is being transmitted to us. Like I said, every time Torah is spoken by somebody who follows in the lineage and the line of Moses, which is every authentic Torah innovator throughout every generation, the sages, the sages of old and of our present times, the tzaddikim. Every time something's innovated and comes into the world, it brings with it a whole new potential. It's a transmission of potential to those who learn it, embedded and integrated into their mind, and then allow it to move into their heart and their actions. Again, that's alignment. So our way of being that is being suggested to us, if we want to really change things for ourselves and for the world, and the potential to do so is being transmitted with that, is to become makers of miracles. So it's not just about doing a miracle. It's about having miracles be the order of your day, and because the order of your life. And because when something happens the first time, it's now in the realm of nature. Rebbe says we must keep creating farther from that original edge. So from 101, we have to go to 102. What wasn't possible 2 days ago was possible yesterday, now what? And from 102, we have to go to 103. And from 103 to 104, each time you take that next 1% or even less than 1%, you are in the realm of the quantum. And from there, consciousness co-creates. It does. Sometimes more effectively than others. And that, as I said, there are lots of things that we can share that help with that. And then there are lots of things that we still have yet to discover because, hey, wherever the edge is today, take a step off of it. And that requires also a different way of perceiving life. The ego-based identity, as I've been saying, is very, very, very defensive. Its main goal is to stay in place. So when something threatens your worldview, you're going to react against it. If someone threatens your worldview, unless you're very, very evolved and used to change as the order of your day, you will react to that person. You'll be upset. They don't agree with you. How do they be so stupid? What's wrong with that? So even if they have good information to share, sometimes people do, sometimes people don't. But in any case, when we are subject to that identity, to that way of being that comes from the ego-based identity, we'll resist new information from others, we'll resist new information for ourselves, we'll resist doing anything that makes us feel significantly worse about ourselves or significantly better, which answers the question as to why it's so hard for people to change. It's because our identity feels threatened by death whenever we want something to really shift that would really make a big difference in the way we see ourselves and what's possible for us and the world. So it's extremely important to understand that and to know what you're dealing with and to get the support that it takes to understand that there's a resistance to the very things that we want the most. And it's painfully true and also expansively true, because when we realize that, we understand we have an inner resistance to anything that shakes our sense of what is real. Anything that puts us out of the familiar and known, whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable, into the unknown, the risk of the unknown, the risk of not knowing how it's going to work out, or if it's going to work out, or what's going to happen, am I going to succeed? It's kind of bizarre, but it's really true that most of us would rather stay stuck in failure, in what we perceive as failure, not getting what we want, than risk really putting ourselves out there and maybe not getting what we want. Think about it for a second. It's kind of weird, unless you understand the context that this is just the way the ego survives. The identity survives, the personality, self. There are different ways you could label that. So when, I'll say it again, most of us will prefer to stay in the certainty of not succeeding at something, that we're not having something that we truly desire, than take the risk of possibly of putting ourselves out and trying and possibly not having it happen or not getting it. How many times have you heard people say, I don't know if it's going to work out. I can't do it. I don't know if it will work out. Maybe it won't work out. How many times have you said that to yourself and that's held you back? Maybe it won't, maybe it will. That unknown is anathema. It's like the biggest, most fearful monster for the identity. Because the identity, and this is why people talk about a ceiling, really we have a thermometer. Every one of us, it's really, really interesting to know this, that every one of us has a low end. If you get significantly lower than like your low self, generally what will happen is you'll get alarmed, you'll get pinged, and you'll start to work your way back up. When you get significantly close to your high end, as good as you've allowed it to be or had it be, then something will happen. You can call it distraction, you can call it chaos, you could call it sabotage, whatever you call it. Often we don't feel like we're sabotaging ourselves, just life takes over. It happens all the time. But that's because we're not aligned. We don't have the vessels that are aligned with something beyond the low and high end of the thermometer. And we each have one, which is why people rarely significantly change. But then you do meet those people who are completely different. Now, maybe they still have a core personality, a sense of humor, whatever, but they're living in a completely different way. And that's what we're all meant to aim for. That's what it means to be makers of miracles, to continuously go beyond the limits of our own nature, 100, 101, 102, 103, every day taking a step off that quantum edge into the unknown, of course with support, of course with community, if that's something that you feel is important to you. But to do that, that is a key to redemption. It's definitely a key to miracles, and we are meant to make miracles. We are meant to experience miracles. The news of Ki'ula, of redemption, is good news. It's happy news, and yet we resist that too. Like, I don't know, is it really coming? I'm not going to believe in it because what if it doesn't happen? Same thing. We want to be stuck in the unpleasant known rather than the possibility of a huge shift that might not happen or might not happen when we think it will or might not happen the way we think it will. So if you're like most of us, you may spend some time kind of huddling and defending and wishing and hoping and being cynical and pissed off and yearning and frustrated and lost and overwhelmed instead of stepping out into your own quantum unknown. And because most of us have resisted probably for way too long, maybe because this information, in part because this information hasn't really been widely disseminated and this transmission hasn't been so widely received. So maybe that's part of the reason why it's taking so long. But you can see, if you care to look, that God is stepping up the action by shaking us loose from our known. You're not going to get out of the box? Okay, I'm going to break the box for you. That's going to make it easier. Okay, so whether you want to look at it as the carrot or the stick, I like to look at it as the carrot because it really can be. It really is. We don't have to get into fear. Or if we get into fear, we can easily find our way out if we know, if we know that we have the tools, understand the path, understand the bigger picture, have the support. But the bottom line is that you want to stay in your box, want to stay in the snow globe, when there's a giant world out there, Soviet Almin, God beyond the laws of nature, intimate, personal, blessed, loving relationship, miracles, for the growing, miracles for the expanding, miracles for the making vessels for, and then receiving. Which do we want to do? Do we want to stay stuck inside or move outside? Either way, again, we're not going to be able to stay in our box for very long because God's breaking the snow globe. Just like when it comes time for the chicken to hatch, it's just the shell starts to crack. That's the way it is. Or the pressure on the chicken is so intense that the chicken starts to peck out of the shell. So I prefer not to go there. Who knows what's going to happen? Even within a shell that's cracking, we each get to co-create our own world. That's also true. Not everybody has the same path. So you get to choose your path. That said, I want to invite you again to sign up for free. See the little website, the little URL scrolling beneath this video, www.gateofunity.com/soul light for the Shine Your Soul Light 5-day training. Again, it's free. Starts on Sunday, June 6th. That's this coming Sunday, just 5 days from now, I think. And it's going to be an intensive, interactive. There will be recordings of each session that will be available throughout the week, but not longer than that. We're looking to support people who are ready to break out of their box. Okay, so if that's you, sign up. If that's your friends, send them the link. Give them the opportunity also. Once you sign up, please join our Facebook community, which you'll see the link to and the page that you get once you do sign up. That's where we're going to be. We're already sharing there. We're already connecting there. Community is massively powerful. And last but not least, if you resonate with these ideas, this information, please like, share, and invite your friends to be part of this. The more of us that connect, the stronger our field becomes, the easier it is. The higher the potential, the easier it is to step into it, and the better things are. Okay, take care, everybody. Lots of love. Hope to see you next week.